Hi, this is Kate Leahy again, and I'm here to show you another recipe from our cookbook, Lavash. This one is definitely a crowd-pleasing favorite. I'm going to show you Jingalov Hats. So Jingalov Hats, it's basically a flatbread, but the thing about it is the dough is really simple. First, I'm just going to add some water, a teaspoon or so of salt. Just kind of like let that dissolve a little bit. This is about 1.5 cups of flour. Get my hands dirty, just kind of mix this into kind of a sticky dough. It's definitely wetter than you might expect it to be. And at first it seems very difficult to work with, but that's why I love this $3 handy bench scraper that can help you work with the dough. So once the dough is kind of firm, this only takes maybe a minute or so, I'm gonna put it onto the counter, dust the counter with flour, and then I'm just gonna start kneading it. I'm just taking it, stretching it with one hand, and then using my palm to then press it back into the counter. So sometimes you'll find your dough is still sticky at this point. In that case, just add more flour. Once you get it to a nice, smooth kind of consistency, you then just put it in an oiled bowl, put a towel on top, or just keep it on the counter. Make sure the counter is nice and dusted. Put the bowl like that and let it sit for at least 20 minutes or up to an hour. And what I do at this point is then I start working on the herbs. This is a bread that's all about the filling. And we first had Jingalov Hats was in the city of Stepanakert, which is the capital of Artsakh. And there in the bazaar, women have these piles and piles of greens that they chop and mix and then shape the breads as you order them. And it's just this incredible choreography. The thing about it is sometimes they say they use up to, 20, 25 herbs and greens to make up the filling. How I translate that to mean is that you can be pretty flexible with what you put in your Jingalov Hats. One of the awesome things I learned in Armenia while working on the cookbook was chopped greens. They use a lot of greens. And in cooking school and in restaurants I worked at, you would sit there and spend hours just picking herbs like this. And what I learned in Armenia is they are not discarding these stalks. These stalks have flavor and they can help fill up your Jingalov Hats. So you just basically make a bundle of herbs, slice it in half, and then simply slice it across. When I make Jingalov Hats, I like to wash the herbs the day before and then just lay them on a towel to dry, maybe then refrigerate them. You can do this also just an hour before you chop the herbs and hopefully they dry up. So again, here are my beautiful turnip greens. I'm gonna slice them in the center, flip the ends so the centers meet, and then chop these into some nice ribbons. So after you've had your workout of chopping a massive amount of herbs, it's time to mix the filling. We've got these nice mix of greens, a heaping 8 cups worth. Then I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt. You might be thinking only a teaspoon of salt for this amount of greens, but think of this almost like a salad. All right, so this is about 2 teaspoons or so of paprika. Sweet paprika is used all the time in Armenia. Here's a little bit of Aleppo pepper. You can use any kind of chili flake you like. They don't always use that when making Jingalov Hats, but I find it just adds a nice little balance. About a tablespoon of lemon juice. A lot of the native herbs that are hard to find here that are really easy to find in Artsakh and Armenia have a sourness. So I'm using lemon to give it that sour boost. And then just, tablespoon and a half of sunflower oil. That essentially is the filling. I'm just gonna give it a nice mix. I don't want to mix it too much because like salad, it will start wilting. And that's why you don't really want to mix the filling too far ahead from when you're going to be filling your greens. So that should do it. So now is the fun part. We have our filling, we have our dough, and now it's time to start shaping Jingalov Hats. Because it takes a while to chop all those herbs, the dough's had time to rest. So I'm just going to divide it into 4 roughly even pieces, roll them all into balls. So these balls are going to rest while I start rolling out the first round of dough. So the real pros in Armenia and Artsakh, they make really big Jingalov Hats. I find that my skill level is still not there where I can make an enormous Jingalov Hats that can fit, like one can fit almost all those greens. So I'm just going to make one that's about, say, 9 inches across, and that should work. So with our lovely filling, you want about 2 cups of filling. It should mound over because these are all raw greens and they're going to cook inside the bread. So you can start at the top and pinch your way down. Sometimes I find it's easier to pinch first in the center, so I'm just pinching it, and then I'm gonna work my way, just pinching, like, I don't know, maybe enclosing pie dough. I'm gonna kind of make sure there's greens that go all the way to the edge there. I'm gonna pinch, pinch, pinch. Doesn't have to look perfect, you'll see. Pinch, pinch, pinch. Make a point there. Any way it works for you to seal it works for this dough. And then this looks a little fat in the center. I'm just gonna kind of slide the herbs so that I know that there's greens all the way down the body of the bread. Just gonna use the palm of my hand to squish down that seal. And then I'm just gonna press it down, just flatten it. Now I want it even flatter, so I'm just gonna use the rolling pin, I think, and just gently, because I don't want the greens to burst through. Just, oops, looks a little funny. So there you have it. You have a really thin dough that's gonna make the herbs cook really fast and the dough griddle up really easily. So when it's time to griddle your Jingalov Hats, you have a few options. Today I'm going to use my wok, but instead of using it like this, I'm turning it upside down. And the reason I do that is because then it's almost like a sage, which they use in the Middle East a lot to cook flatbreads. A wok is a great solution, especially if you have a gas stove. If you don't have a wok, no problem. Cast iron is great too. My cast iron pan is a little too small. It's about a 10-inch pan. You'd want one at least 12 inches to fit the Jingalov Hats on. If you don't have a cast iron pan, a griddle of any kind, and if you have a really big griddle, you can do 2 at a time and line them up that way. So lots of options. The keys are just even heat and something that heats up really quickly, and a stove. Jingalov Hats. Let's just cut it in the center. Ah, beautiful. You just roll it up like that and give it a bite.